Today's guest driver is actually OpaRay. So I'll be the first one to do the questions, right? So I figure why not? I'll go through the questions, see how they feel, see if it makes sense, and go from there. All right. Hopefully you're not too disappointed. I don't have somebody else to talk to, but let's start with the basics and go from there. All right. So question number one: what led you to EVs? So this is going to be kind of complicated. So I do know that I had a friend who had a Model S. Back 2012, maybe 2013. I'm not sure exactly. So that's 10 years ago. No, okay, whatever. Anyway, she said something about she had 200 miles range and she was going to Houston and back. So I said, that means you gotta stop somewhere and charge it up or something like that? And she said yes, but then we never went further. And now I also knew at that time, I knew that Tesla was an expensive car, and I made a comment about that. So maybe she didn't like that part, I don't know. But after that, I had two friends who had Nissan Leafs. Now, the Leaf is more of a around town car. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the range was. It's somewhere around 100 miles. So that's, it's commuting to work and back, that kind of stuff. And so the one friend, we know that he would either either have somebody meet him at a charger or give him a ride back to the charger to handle his car. So I know he was charging up all the time. So Austin Energy has a charging system in Austin, so you can sign up and you can get a decent deal on the cost. If you're an Austin Energy customer and you have an EV, you should look into it, I think. But anyway, whatever. That is. So anyway, the bottom line of all that is, I was aware of it. I was aware of EVs, and my impression was like, yes, but if I wanted to go to, let's say, Dallas, I couldn't do it. Now, if my friend, the one with the Model S, had talked a little bit more about it, but I still had the same feeling, I think. I mean, I don't think superchargers were a big thing in Texas at that time. I could be wrong. I don't know. So anyway, whatever. Now, fast forward to a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I don't know if I started with I find it kind of curious, or somebody said something like, "Oh, we're thinking about it," and I tend to know amongst my group, at least some of my group, in some things I'm the leader, so to speak. Not the leader, but the first person to try something. So the first thing I did, of course, was found some YouTube videos, and found this guy. It's Out of Spec Motoring, or Out of Spec Reviews. Anyway, it's his videos, but he's talking about how he's able to manage driving his Tesla across the country. And that was my first introduction to, oh, that's possible. Okay, so knowing that there's a Tesla store down at the Domain where you can go test drive the car, I went down there, tried it out, and as soon as I drove it, I'm like, oh, I gotta have one of these. Okay, if you haven't heard, Teslas have really nice acceleration. And if you like acceleration, it's going to be a big deal to you. If you're a slowpoke, maybe it won't matter to you. But anyway, that's what led me to it, was just being aware of it and having curiosity. And then the final punch is experiencing how great the car is. All right, anyway. So what are your two most favorite features of your car or manufacturer? Okay, so I have a Tesla Model Y. My two favorite features aren't actually, well, the first one is not actually part of the car. My favorite feature is the supercharger network. I mean, if you drive an electric vehicle with the CCS1 charger port, you already know why I like my Tesla superchargers so much better. And if you don't, well, maybe you need to learn a little bit more. Anyway, there are superchargers all across the US. There are places where it may be difficult to get to using a Tesla and superchargers. I'll give you that. But I've been to Boston and back. I've been to San Diego and Los Angeles and back. And I've been down to South Padre Island. So that's sort of two very different places in the United States of America. And I did all that with relative ease. Now, anyway, whatever. That is my favorite feature, without a doubt. It makes a huge difference. And you know, hearing people who there was a guy who had I think a Hyundai. He says, oh, I can't drive home for Thanksgiving because they closed Electrify America in Waco. And I'm like, well, why is that a problem? Okay, so what I found out is his car gets like 230, 240 miles of range EPA, which means he may not even be able to make 200 miles highway range. Okay, whereas he was talking about there was a second Electrify America. I went out there. There's a supercharger out there at Ennis, Texas. So I supercharged, and I drove all the way back to Lago Vista on that charge. So I'm having a hard time understanding that. But anyway, that's the difference. The difference between the supercharger network and the total combined CCS1 network in the United States. It's a huge difference. Now, if the government has its way, things will get much better, maybe. We'll see. Okay. Second favorite feature. Okay. Now, I've heard that other cars, their navigation systems are pretty decent, but I happen to think that my navigation system is the best. I mean, what do I get? So first of all, I can put in an address. It plots a course, and it adds in all the supercharger stops that I might need to make it there. Now, that's flexible. If I'm using more energy, it will change how frequently the stops come. If I'm being more efficient, then it might extend how long it would be before I have to stop. So anyway, that's cool. In theory, it'll redirect you around traffic problems. I haven't had that much success with it. Anyway, the features in the navigation system are great. Okay. Neither one of those are exactly tied to my car, which goes to show those are actually Tesla features that are important. Okay, so this one's going to be kind of weird, a weird answer, but here we go. What two features do you not really care for? So it's not that I like the idea of full self-driving or FSD. It sounds like a cool idea. At the time I bought my car, or I made the reservation for it, I guess, the cost was $12,000 for that feature. The cost is now $15,000. So the bigger problem I have with that is the cost. It's the cost. You know, if it was much cheaper within the price range, I would have it. But at $15,000, it's like, I mean, I'm not saying it's not worth it. Just, it's a cost. Okay. The second feature I don't really care for is the car wakes up every time you get close to it with your phone. Okay. Now, that means it responds quicker when you get in the car, but like if I'm walking through the garage and the car's parked in the garage, it kind of turns on. And I wish there's a way to not have the air conditioning cut on just because I walk close to the car. But anyway, I mean, that's a relatively minor thing, right? Okay, what feature would I add to my car? Well, I've already touched on it as a not so happy feature, and that would be if I could add FSD without paying anything, or for a relatively low price, I would add FSD, and I'd be using it. But whatever, that's another day, right? Okay. What car would you have if you could have any? Okay, the basic answer to this question is, I think it'd be a Tesla Model S Plaid. I mean, it'd be unique. Of course, let me add in one more thing to it. I would like it the silver paint that they have out in Berlin. I mean, that would be special. That's not happening, but that would be really cool. But the Model S Plaid, I mean, the acceleration, you can't beat it. And it's meant as kind of a luxury highway cruiser, so that part's great. It has plenty of room in it, more room than I need for myself, but I mean, and it's a measure of luxury. I'm sure there are other cars. Luxury is more in the mind of the beholder than an actual measurable thing. So, I mean, I get it. I mean, some people will go, oh, it's not luxurious. Okay, fine. But to me, it would be the greatest thing. Now, did it have air-conditioned seats? I'm not sure if it did or not. I mean, if it had air-conditioned seats, yeah, that'd be the only knock I'd have against it. But there you go. I mean, if I couldn't have, if for some reason the Model S didn't exist, the Model 3 Performance. Oh yeah, that'd be one of the ultimate cars, I think. There's only supposed to be one car, but so I guess BYD has a car called the Han. I'm sure I didn't pronounce it right, but anyway, the Han supposedly has a convertible version. I would like that convertible version, especially in their emerald green. It would be beautiful. And I think I just heard of, there's another Chinese company, Meta, I think it is, that has a convertible sports car. That would be cool too. Any of those. But let's stick with the Model S Plaid as the guy. Yes, he is the one. Okay. So what did you know about EVs 10 years ago? I think I've already answered this question actually, but so I mentioned the friend that had the Model S and the two friends that had Nissan Leafs. Other than that, I had no impression that an EV could ever drive you anyplace serious. Okay, so any final thoughts? So, you already know that for me, the best feature of a Tesla is the supercharger network. Right? I mean, without a doubt. The navigation of the car is great. But I haven't talked about the car itself. I mean, so you stop at a supercharger, you're going to be there, let's say 20-25 minutes charging up. Well, guess what? You can watch YouTube. You can play a game. You can do karaoke. These are all things that aren't important to operating the car. But when you think about it, they're important features for a person who's driving a car or drove a car to a charge stop and now needs to do something while they're waiting for the car to charge up. That's all cool. And it's all Tesla. I've heard some other vehicles are starting to add some things like games. Some allow some video playing. but they're not in the same ballpark. They're not even on the same continent compared to where Tesla's at. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe somebody does have it. I know that the car I might have gotten instead of a Tesla was a VW ID4. It would have been my choice other than Tesla. It doesn't have any of those things. I mean, it's a great car. So if you're just commuting around town, that kind of stuff, it's great. I have a friend that has an ID4 actually. And he said, well, I've taken a couple of trips, but I haven't really done a whole lot. Okay. I mean, it's fine. Each person has their own thing. And that's cool. But here's the bottom line part of what I'm saying is I took a trip out to San Diego. It went pretty flawless from a charging perspective. I mean, it was great. I took a trip to Boston. Now, it was in the wintertime. That cold weather did impact me to some extent. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to make a difference. I mean, a small difference, a noticeable difference. But the car worked fine. I had no problems beyond that. So I think the final thought, I mean, you're watching me record a video about how great my car is, my Tesla. I don't know why anybody would get a car other than a Tesla if they plan to do any road trips. Now, if you're only planning to ride around town, yes, maybe they'll work. But it's just where I'm at. So, while I won't demand that you get a Tesla, you know, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not for everybody, right? Some people are not going to be able to tolerate driving a Tesla. It's just that different. They may need something like a Volkswagen ID4, which is built more to not necessarily hide, but make the EV experience more like a regular gas car. I mean, the difference between an ID4 and my Tiguan I used to have would be somewhat slim, I think. I mean, you would notice some differences, but not that much. The Tesla is very different. But anyway, whatever. I find that Tesla is easy to adjust to once you get over the differences. And actually, I have a friend, Ming, who has a Model 3. She just got it. And she's already adjusting to it. Now, is she comfortable with it? No, not yet. It's so different. It's going to take a while. But she's already gotten to the point where she's comfortable with plugging in to charge, unplugging it, driving to pick up her granddaughter at the school and stuff like that, going to Costco. She's comfortable doing that. So, I mean, are there features she hasn't explored yet, she has questions about? Yes, definitely. But she's already comfortable just the basics of driving the car. So, Tesla, baby. If you don't want to go EV, I get it. I mean, not everybody can make the adjustment. If you think that a Porsche Taycan is a much better car, okay, you certainly have a point. However, as soon as you try to take a road trip, it's the charging network that lets you down. Okay, with all that said, good luck. I hope you join our club, our team of EV drivers, and you get to enjoy it. And you get to experience how great it actually is. Onward, upward, charge. Okay, so if you made it this far, you've noticed how much I talked. I'm sorry I talk so much. I guess that's one of my faults, is if I get passionate about something, I will talk. And some of my friends are probably going like, who's this guy? He doesn't talk that much. Whatever. Anyway, there it is. The questions work to some extent. I hope they give some insight, but is it complete? I don't know yet. I've been pondering. So the idea is to have when somebody comes and drives the car, you ask them a series of questions or interview them basically. So here we go. What led you to EVs? Question number 1. 2. What are your 2 most favorite features of your car or manufacturer? What are 2 features that you do not care for? What feature would you like to add to your car? What car would you have if you could have any? What did you know about EVs 10 years ago? And any final thoughts? So obviously you don't want to ask too many questions because then it takes too long, right? But I'm hoping this gives enough insight to where somebody's at to give you an idea of what's going on. Anyway, if you have any thoughts about how this works, I'd be glad to hear it. If you want to borrow this format and apply it on your own channel, so be it. I'm okay with that. It's not like I have a competitive edge on this, and I'm sure other people do this much better. But anyway, let's go from here. And actually, what I'll probably do is I'll interview myself first, just to make sure that this works out.